Hey guys, Third here with Boffer Basics, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a bat using 1/4" Volara. You can commonly order this from suppliers such as Forged Foam as a battery blade kit, or you can order it from foam suppliers such as Foam & More and Foam Factory. Though quality does vary from company to company, buying from a reputable foam dealer that actually works with Boffer, like Forged Foam or Warlord Sports or Prometheus, whoever happens to be selling this stuff, is your safest bet. So the materials you're going to need for this are some 1/4" Volara. This piece I have here is 26 inches by 14 inches, though the necessary length is going to depend entirely on the thickness of your core and how thick you're going to be making your bat. Mine is going to be coming out at about 2 3/4 inches. You'll need a core. In this case, I've got a 30 1/4 inch long, 3/8 square solid fiberglass core. I'm intending my weapon to come out to be about 32 inches long, so I've accounted for added length from the pommel and from the stabbing tip. And then you're going to need some higher density foam, such as 4-pound for biscuiting, some strapping tape, your glue of choice, and whatever cutting implements you're going to need. As far as glue, in this case I'm going to be using spray glue, and for doing these bats I highly recommend spray glue. It makes it so fast and easy to do these, as you'll see, and I always make an awful mess when I do it with DAP. If you do it with DAP, a liquid contact cement, I've heard that using the gel DAP is much easier because it doesn't run around. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get this biscuited and prepped, and you can check out our video on that here, and I'll get us going. Alright, I've got my core lightly sanded and my ends biscuited, and we're ready to get started. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a small bevel on the edge of, on one end of the Volara, in the direction that it's going to be wrapped. This is just going to help it lie a bit more flat, so it'll make the process a little easier. It's easiest if you've never beveled foam to practice on some scrap pieces. Don't start working with the good or expensive stuff right away. And lay it against a sharp edge like I'm doing with this cardboard here, and it'll help you keep a consistent angle so you get a pretty good bevel just like that. Once you've done that, you're going to take a strip of tape. Doesn't matter if it's strapping tape or duct tape. Just pull a piece off, that's the length of your piece of Volara. Apply part of it to your bevel, and then the rest of it is going to be applied to our actual core. Alright, and now we're ready to actually start gluing. For this step here, I'm going to wear gloves because I just don't like getting glue all over my hands, and when you're doing a bat kit, you're going to be handling a lot of glue hands-on. It's a pain in the neck, but unfortunately a necessary one. I like to get through it as unscathed as I can. So, if you're going to be using whatever glue you're using, make sure you're at the right temp. This spray glue, typically above 60 degrees and below probably 85% humidity, you'll be doing just fine. And with this spray glue specifically, I've had really good luck with waiting just about a minute after spraying both pieces before applying, and that works great. The can recommends at least 30 seconds. I haven't found that to be quite enough. So to get started, you're going to spray your core, and when you're using spray glue, it's like using spray paint. You don't want to go crazy and super saturate, because then it's never going to get tacky and work. And you're going to go just about 6 to 8 inches here, and then likewise on the, see, already taped on. Don't have to worry about handling the foam. Not over my Doritos. And a little bit of glue here, and now we wait for 1 minute for it to get tacky. Okay, it's been 1 minute and we're ready to apply. So whenever you're applying foam, especially when you're wrapping foam like for a bat, you want to be very careful that you're not pre-compressing the foam. So as I do this, and again, wearing gloves makes this so much better, you're not cranking down on it and you're not wrapping tight. You're going actually fairly light, as light as you can, while still effectively getting it secure, because if you start rolling down super tight, you're compressing the foam, you're compressing the air bubbles in the foam that actually make it springy. And when you do this, you're just making it denser. You're going to make it hit harder. I've seen perfectly what should be passing or adequate amount of padding on a bat. I've seen big bats fail because when people are wrapping these around, they're rolling tight and they're cranking on it. And it's such a simple mistake to make that it's a common one that newer foamsmiths do make. And I was guilty of it myself when I was still learning to foamsmith, and I'm still learning to foamsmith. So, simple mistake, don't do it. Once you've gotten as far as your glue was, go ahead and spray the rest of it. And you want to, I'm going to end up about 2 3/4, so I've got about 4 to 6 inches that doesn't need to be glued on this side. I mean, if you do glue it, it's not a big deal, but it's just going to be a bit of a sticky mess to deal with later. So let's go ahead and then we'll spray the rest of this completely. And I don't know if my camera will pick this up, but I've got some droplets there. That's just because I sprayed a little bit close. I'm trying to stop overspray. But otherwise, it's just a nice, fine, white mist across the back of the foam here. And this being black foam makes it really easy to see. So again, not going for super saturation on these. And another minute to dry. Alright, that's been another minute. Let's continue rolling. Now, I don't know how you do this without actually handling the foam and getting glue all over your hands. So, gloves, beautiful things. I think I've said that probably like 4 or 5 times, but I just can't get over just how swell they are. Alright. Now, nice thing about spray glue is it's pretty forgiving. It takes about 24 hours for it to fully set, and you've got 15 minutes of working time after you apply it. So if you screw up a little bit, you can pretty easily undo it. So I didn't get my wrap good at the bottom there, and I'm actually, unfortunately, kind of spiraling up a little on this side. Which I'm really not too terribly worried about. The exact dimensions of my blade don't concern me because my blade's more than long enough to pass either rule set's minimum dimensions. So if you spiral up, down or up a little bit here, down a little bit here, don't worry about it. I mean, if you're going for min-max specs, you might have a little bit of trouble. But otherwise, if that's not a concern for you, just figure out exactly how high or low you are, make a few marks, and just use a razor blade to clean up the edge of your bat. Alright, once you've got that nice and even, give it a squeeze to make sure that the glue's got a nice bond all over the place. And let's go ahead and check to make sure that it is the dimensions that we want. So I was shooting for 2 3/4, and I am at 2 3/4 plus like a 1/16 or so. So a little bigger, but rather a little bit much than a little bit too little. And we're going to lose some of that right now because I'm going to go ahead and bevel this edge down so that it's nice and flush and doesn't leave a weird bump underneath our cover. Alright, so I've got a nice bevel on my bat here. It's nice and round, and we're going to do that measuring tape. Oh, there it is. Let's check it now. Beautiful. Just a hair over 2 3/4 and right at 2 3/4 on my thinnest spot. And you want to try and make sure that your bats are as round, as uniform as possible, because otherwise you get this weird kind of bulge on one side, and it's just extremely obvious that it's not actually perfectly round, which to me is obnoxious. It's just aesthetics, though. Having too much foam isn't going to ruin your weapon. It definitely won't pass through any templates. Alright, so there, that makes that much better. And I always keep a template on hand when I'm building just to make sure everything's good. Alright, so next step we're going to move on to is the stab tip. In this case I'm going to be using some Dick's Stadium seats. It's a good marine foam, makes great stab tips. There are other stadium seats like Thermoset out there that you can use. And Thermoset's a really good brand, but bear in mind that not all squishy stadium seat-like cushions and foams are created equal. Some stuff may feel the same, but breaks down extremely fast, or some stuff it might feel the same, but it's actually really hard. So you can't go wrong using the Dick's brand or the Thermoset brand stuff. You can get these on sale at Dick's for about $7, and depending if you're doing a lot of swords or a lot of bats, or if you're doing single-handed or great weapons, you can get a lot of stab tips out of one of these. Probably about a dozen or so stab tips. So that's really not bad. Probably more than that. I tend to underestimate. Alright, and once we got this cut out, we'll go ahead and secure it to the tip. Okay, had to track down my carpet tape here. Now you could spray glue this down, but I find that I tend to burn through my stab tips faster than I burn through my actual blades. So I like to just secure them down with a little bit of carpet tape, and I'm going to put down a little bit of strapping tape over top of this because Volara has a very low shear rating. So if I were to put a piece of carpet tape, which has a very strong adhesive on it, onto a piece of this and try to remove it, it would tear away the foam before the tape would tear. So I don't want the carpet tape actually directly on top of this. So I'm just going to put a couple of pieces on the top here to secure that, so when I go to remove my stab tip the next time, it's not going to tear away my bat and cause any damage, which would be just absolutely awful. So a little tape there, strip of tape on the back of my stab tip. And I have a slight oblong to it, but just very slight. And that is the striking surface of our weapon. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put strapping tape on the blade. This is a little bit controversial in the foam smithing community. A lot of people do it, a lot of people don't. It's really, in my opinion, a matter of personal preference. It doesn't make the weapon hit any harder. The idea behind packing taping the blade is that it won't break down as quickly, and with foams like Volara that have, again, a low shear rating and don't really have much of a skin to them, you're essentially adding a skin to the foam to prevent it from getting torn up. I've used Volara bats for quite a while, and I found that if I fight a lot of opponents that have armor on, my blades tend to get kind of nicked or torn up even through a good cloth cover, just because Volara doesn't hold up well to getting the snot beat out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. If you want to see how to do that, you can check this video here, and I will jump through that part. Alright guys, gone ahead and I've taped up my blade. Again, personal preference. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to. And we're going to move on. So I've already marked out how long I want my handle, how much room I want for my pommel, and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my haft padding. So I've got a piece of blue foam, which is perfectly fine for haft padding. No point in using the expensive stuff for non-striking surface. And I'm going to bevel that edge just like I did the edge of our blade on the bat itself. And this just makes nice lay flat seams. It's not a requirement by any means, but it just makes everything line up and lay real nice. You don't have to do it, but it's a good skill to have, to be able to bevel. I think you'll be happier with the way your gear turns out by doing so. You gotta up your foam smithing game. Now I'm just gonna be lazy tonight. I don't feel like going crazy and waiting on dab to dry. So I'm just gonna use a little bit of carpet tape to secure this in place, which will be just fine. So, got that done. Press it along a side, and then again, we're not going crazy here, not trying to compress anything as we wrap. You want to be as gentle as you can while doing this. So take your time and just press everything down. And if you did your beveling well, which it looks like I did, it should line up just so with the opposite bevel and give you a nice smooth rounded bit of haft. Now for a core this small, a single layer of blue foam, if you're using it, will be perfectly adequate for haft padding. It's not going to allow any harm to come to anyone if you accidentally haft them. A lot of people like to add up towards the blade a second layer of haft padding, and honestly, even if you don't need it aesthetically, it's just kind of a nice step down, but it's a completely optional step. Alright, sorry for the small jump cut there, and that wraps that up. Got our bevel nice and on the edge with the opposite bevel, and our haft padding looks great. So the next point to go on to would be the pommel, and if you want to see how that's done, you can check out our video here, and then to finish up the handle. However you decide to do the handle is completely up to you. It depends on how big your hands are, how thick of a handle you like, and what you're going for. Before you do your handle, if you need any counterweighting, typically it's not best, but preferable to have your weights under your handle so you're not grabbing whatever heavy clunky thing that you decided to use to counterweight it. You can cover it with rope so it's much more comfortable. But anyway, that is in essence how you do a Omni bat club sword. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. If you liked this video or if you found it helpful, please like and subscribe and share it around. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.